Holy shit. He said what?
I choose people who don't want to be written about on the whole, whose lives are shrouded in mystery, and they want to hide their secrets, and I just love digging away to find out what they don't want us to know.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
We know now in hindsight that Meghan never really intended to stay. Her guest list to her wedding showed her real ambition was to be a star in California, and Harry's friends were excluded from the guest list in the evening from the dinner.
He thought he could control the narrative forever, but one tape just changed everything. Prince Harry has spent the last few years carefully rewriting his public image. Part victim, part rebel, part truth teller. Every interview, every podcast, every Netflix special has been choreographed to perfection. But then Tom Bower dropped the tapes, and in less than 24 hours, the illusion Harry spent years building wasn't just cracked, it was obliterated. Because this time, it wasn't the tabloids twisting his words. It wasn't royal aides leaking half-truths. It was his own voice, raw and unfiltered, exposing the sharp contrast between who he claims to be and who he really is behind closed doors. And the reaction? Utter chaos. Insiders say Harry went ballistic. Not upset, not rattled. Unhinged. Calls to lawyers, demands for suppression, screaming matches inside Montecito walls because he knew what those tapes meant. Game over. The PR machine stalled. Meghan stayed eerily silent. And Harry? He spiraled. Because this wasn't just a media leak. It was the moment the truth slipped out before he could spin it. What exactly did the tapes reveal? Why did they send shockwaves through Hollywood and royal circles alike? And how did Harry go from the most protected voice in the world to the most exposed? Strap in, because what you're about to hear isn't polished. It's not approved. It's the version of Prince Harry he never meant for you to see.
Well, the future for Sussex I think, is pretty grim. I think that they're on a permanent decline. Whenever they need money, whenever they need publicity to stoke their reputation, they'll drop another little bomb. I mean, we're still waiting, of course, for Meghan's own autobiography, which I'm sure she is penning. She is a good writer, and it'll be filled with vitriol and filled with lies. I mean, she will not tell the truth because you want sensational headlines. That is the ultimate weapon she can deploy.
Tom Bower isn't some tabloid gossip peddler. He's the biographer that royalty dreads. The man has built a career exposing powerful figures with surgical precision, and when his name reappeared with the words hidden tapes, the industry knew something was about to detonate. But no one expected this, not even Harry. According to insiders close to the situation, these weren't careless leaks or vague recollections, they were actual recordings. Unfiltered, undeniable, allegedly capturing private conversations where Harry let his guard down, sounding not like a man burdened by royal trauma, but like a privileged operator obsessed with control, image, and retaliation. The voice wasn't reflective or compassionate. It was sharp, bitter, and alarmingly self-righteous. The tone alone was a PR nightmare. The content, even worse. Alleged digs at family members, behind-the-scenes frustration over media deals, and subtle jabs at Meghan's handling of certain brand partnerships. Things no one was ever supposed to hear. Bower, always calculated, dropped the bomb with timing so surgical it almost felt personal. Right when Harry and Meghan were attempting another brand pivot, right when public interest was dipping, the narrative flipped in an instant. Journalists started circling. Producers froze projects. Executives who had quietly tolerated Harry's persona suddenly had proof that the mask had slipped. And the worst part? No one close to Harry has publicly denied the recordings are real. Because when the voice on the tape is yours, denial doesn't work. Silence becomes your only move. And Bower knew that from the very beginning.
A lot of people accuse Meghan of changing Harry, but do you think this is the real Harry?
No, I don't. I think that it's just Harry, being a simple soul, has easily changed to suit Meghan's agenda. And Meghan's living with Meghan is very different than living with Kate and William. Meghan has a completely different attitude, and I think California has a different attitude. So I think we're now seeing a different Harry.
When the tapes went public, Harry didn't just react, he imploded. Sources close to the couple describe a scene that felt less like damage control and more like a royal-grade panic attack. Shouting behind closed doors, phone calls fired off to lawyers across time zones, advisors scrambling to pull mentions offline. One insider even said Harry went completely nuclear, not because the content was fabricated, but because he knew it was real. And worse, it was out. For a man obsessed with controlling his own narrative, the loss of that control wasn't just inconvenient, it was catastrophic. Montecito became a pressure cooker, with staff reportedly instructed to act like it didn't happen, as if pretending would undo the damage. But behind the facade, Harry was spiraling. He allegedly accused team members of failing to protect him, questioned why no one warned him, and threatened legal action against anyone who so much as shared the clips. Meghan, according to some insiders, eyes, didn't say much, just watched. Cold, calculating, detached, maybe shocked, maybe not. Some believe she knew the tapes existed and hoped they'd stay buried, but Harry didn't hope. He panicked. He had spent years turning pain into PR, vulnerability into brand value, and in one drop, Tom Bauer turned it all into Steve. No control, no cleanup, just his own voice, echoing across the internet, and not a single friendly outlet rushing to protect him. That wasn't a scandal, that was a collapse, and Harry felt every second of it.
When Meghan came along into the scene, I just thought, this is fascinating. How is this going to play out? To tell the truth, I spoke to very few friends of Meghan because she put a fatwa on anyone talking to me who she could. So I sent off dozens and dozens of emails to her friends, and most of them didn't even reply. And obviously I spoke to her father, who loves her still very much, and said, you know, in the end, whatever she is, she's still my daughter.
The moment the tapes went viral, Harry's inner circle went from confident to chaotic. What had once been one of the most tightly managed PR machines in celebrity history suddenly looked like a collapsing tent in a windstorm. According to insiders, Archewell's communications team froze. Not a single statement, no Twitter posts, no carefully crafted denial, just a gaping silence as news outlets from London to Los Angeles picked the tapes apart, frame by frame, word by word. For years, Harry and Meghan had weaponized media silence as a tool, selective engagement, handpicked interviews, exclusive control of the narrative. But this time, silence wasn't strategy, it was survival. Reports say the couple's publicist was blindsided, scrambling behind the scenes to suppress coverage, issuing quiet warnings to sympathetic journalists, and attempting to flood news cycles with fluff to bury the fire. But nothing stuck. Every media outlet wanted a piece of it. What made the situation worse was that even their allies, former media partners, advocacy contacts, even streaming execs, didn't step in to spin. One by one, doors that were once open slammed shut or simply stopped answering. A source close to a major network said bluntly, "We weren't given talking points," because there were no talking points. Harry's usual fallback of blaming the press didn't apply here because the voice was his, and the damage was internal. No palace leak to point fingers at, no British tabloid to demonize. Just a global audience listening and waiting to see if he'd even try to explain himself. He didn't, because when your own words burn down your brand, there's nothing left to say. The worst part about the tapes wasn't just that they existed, it was what they exposed.
Alternatively, charming, spoiled, badly educated, simple-minded and demanding, and that previous girlfriend said he lacked class, was unromantic, unserious, short-tempered, imperious. What on earth did Meghan see in that then?
She saw someone who's needy. She saw
Right.
somebody
She could fix.
Exactly, who
Yeah.
she could use and who could serve her purposes. And to be fair, I think Harry saw the same in her. He was looking for someone who, despite all those minuses, wanted him, and she did want him because she then was promoted from an unknown actress into a global star. So they served each other.
According to insiders who've heard them, Harry's tone wasn't emotional or reflective. It was entitled, irritable, and shockingly out of touch. In one clip, he reportedly vents about how the public owes him understanding, referring to critics as ungrateful idiots, and mocking the mental health of certain royal staffers who challenged him in the past. In another, he allegedly complains about media coverage that didn't focus enough on his trauma, as if headlines should be curated to serve his emotional arc. These weren't offhand remarks. They were moments that completely undercut the public image he's spent years cultivating. The wounded prince, the misunderstood rebel, the man rising above it all. Instead, what emerged was a different Harry, bitter, calculating, self-absorbed. Even more alarming were comments he reportedly made about monetizing his trauma, referencing brand deals and public sympathy as leverage. The revelation wasn't just that he's flawed, it's that the flaw was strategic. Every raw interview, every carefully edited Netflix clip now feels rehearsed, not heartfelt. And in that realization, the public didn't just feel deceived, they felt used. That's when support turned into suspicion, and the brand cracked beyond repair. As the backlash spread like wildfire, the silence from Harry's closest allies spoke louder than any statement. People who once posted birthday tributes and appeared in glossy Netflix specials with him suddenly vanished from the conversation. Major Hollywood names, producers, and industry power brokers started pulling back, quietly but decisively. One source close to a streaming giant claimed deals tied to Harry and Meghan's brand were being internally reevaluated, not because of controversy, but because of risk. No one wanted to be tethered to a brand that had just become radioactive. Even Meghan's rumored upcoming projects reportedly went cold, with studios hesitating to move forward amid the noise. But it wasn't just Hollywood that distanced itself. Royal insiders say Buckingham Palace had already emotionally severed ties long ago, but this leak confirmed why they did. No official comment, no public defense, just stillness.
And I think he's slipped from what was the natural person who everyone in Britain loved and saw the smiley person who played with children, Urson Bolt and the whole thing, into this vengeful person, full of vengeance. I think Meghan Meghan encouraged the ventures. Meghan encouraged the anger and the hatred and seeing enemies and paranoia.
The type of deliberate inaction that signals total disengagement. Even charitable organizations once aligned with the couple stopped promoting their collaborations. Behind the scenes, it wasn't about betrayal, it was self-preservation. When association becomes a liability, even loyalty has an expiration date. Harry and Meghan built their empire on curated access and elite alliances. Now, those alliances are evaporating, and no one is rushing to stop it. While Harry unraveled, Meghan stayed silent, and that silence wasn't accidental. For someone who's built her brand around speaking up, telling her truth, and defending her family, the decision to say absolutely nothing in the wake of the tape leak was strategic, surgical, and deeply revealing. Insiders say she didn't issue a statement, didn't make a call to Tom Bauer, didn't even attempt to redirect the narrative through one of her usual sources. She simply stepped back. No Instagram activity, no subtle Daily Mail leaks, just stillness. Some believe she's distancing herself, not just from the scandal, but from Harry himself. Rumors are swirling in Hollywood that Meghan has quietly begun repositioning. Less couple brand, more solo legacy. Her team, according to one entertainment consultant, has been pitching new content ideas that feature her voice, her story, and notably, no mention of Harry. Whether she knew the tapes existed or not, she saw the fallout coming and chose to watch from a safe distance. Meghan isn't trying to clean up Harry's mess. She's making sure it doesn't splash on her. And in a world where silence is often louder than denial, her decision not to speak may be the most powerful move she's made since walking out of the palace. The message was subtle but clear. This is his problem now.
What I discovered was, of course, that she was hunting for a man in England from 2013 onwards, when her marriage had crashed and she couldn't find anyone in Canada at the time. And she wanted wealth and she wanted fame. And she targeted, there's no doubt she targeted Harry.
After the initial shock wore off, Harry did what he's always done when the narrative slips out of his grip. He went on the offensive. Legal threats were drafted, letters sent. His legal team reportedly reached out to platforms hosting the leaked tapes, demanding takedowns and threatening litigation. But the internet doesn't care about cease and desist emails. Within hours, backups were circulating in group chats, reposted across continents, downloaded, archived, and immortalized. You can't scrub your own voice from the digital record, especially when the voice is the story. And while lawyers tried to tighten the noose, Harry's public image spiraled. Reports claim he canceled appearances, lashed out at team members, and even demanded changes to upcoming projects that referenced his vulnerable persona. That version of himself, the one he'd spent years selling, was now laughable to the same public that once sympathized. And the media? Relentless. International headlines weren't asking if the tapes were real. They were dissecting every second of them. And not a single outlet, not even the friendliest ones, came to his defense. The damage wasn't just external, it was existential. A brand built on controlled emotion was now collapsing under the weight of real emotion he couldn't edit. And for the first time, even the most loyal observers started asking the question Harry dreads most. What else is he hiding? Prince Harry spent years telling the world his story, painfully, publicly, and with full editorial control. He turned personal wounds into global headlines, curated documentaries, and emotionally engineered interviews that portrayed him as the royal rebel who escaped the system. But the hidden tapes changed all of that. They stripped away the narrative, the polish, the strategy, and left nothing but his own voice, raw and exposed. In the space of a few recordings, Harry lost the one thing he always believed he had: control. And without it, the entire machine collapsed. Hollywood isn't calling, the palace isn't blinking, Meghan isn't defending, and the public, they're watching him unravel. Because when the truth leaks before you can edit it, all that's left is who you really are behind the curtain. This wasn't just a PR failure, it was a full-blown credibility implosion. And now, the same people who built his platform are stepping back quietly and permanently. He can threaten, deny, or stay silent, but the damage is done. And if you think this was explosive, just wait until you see what happened when Meghan Markle allegedly made a furious call to Colin Jost over another brutal mockery that hit too close to home. You won't believe what went down next. Watch our last expose right now, only on Star Spotlight.